and welcome to a Very English Craft Room, and another in the scrapbooking series. This time we're going to look at a layout I did for a cyber crop from Spoonful of Scraps on Facebook, and this was the Great Outdoors crop, and this was for the Over the Hills challenge, where you had to use grey and purple triangles and some paper tearing. So I took these challenges quite literally. So because this was over the hills, it made me think of mountains, and I found a photograph of my son when he was bouldering in the Peak District. So I started out by cutting some triangles from this sort of textured grey cardstock that to me looked a little bit like the mountains and hills there in the Peak District and the dark peaks. My son loves bouldering, and as you'll see in the journaling, I spent many an hour stood with this angle of my son in view whilst spotting for him with his crash mat. So I'm just sticking the triangles down, just sticking the lower part of them down to start with. I will put some adhesive underneath the tops when I finish, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to tuck the photograph behind some of the mountains or not. So I took some time to sort of rearrange them and get them how I wanted. And it's strange because they never go back the way that you'd actually planned when you're doing this kind of thing. And really I should have taken a photograph of how I had them laid out so that I could refer back to that. So just using the double-sided tape there and my favourite tool there, the dental stick, to smooth the tape down and then peel off the backing. So I found some purple here, sort of a lilac-y purple. The clouds in the photograph, the clouds in the sky, actually do have a slightly purpley tinge to them. The backing paper was white with some faint purpley lines, very rough sort of lines through the paper. I'm using the ruler here to paper tear the matting and layering, just to give a nice sort of textured edge. This is something I do quite a lot, and I've found that by using different rulers I get a different effect. So just pulling out whatever it is that does the best for what you actually want. So that was one shade of lilac purple, and now I'm going to double mount it onto a second one there. Wasn't too bothered about how much paper I was wasting with this tearing off, because actually I've got quite a lot of this, and I do keep the scraps for doing smaller bits of matting and layering, etc. Obviously not a little bit like that one that I've just taken off. Whilst I'm talking about the waste generated from scrapbooking, so like the backing tapes from the sticky back, the double-sided tape there, and odd bits of paper, I keep a small plastic food storage container to my right, just slightly off screen, and I put all the rubbish in there and then deal with it a little bit later when it's full. This was something that I picked up from a crop that I attend. The lady who organises that actually supplies us with a little tub for us to fill with our rubbish, and then you empty it out as and when needed. So here I was looking through some of the ephemera. I was looking to see if there's anything in particular I liked. I thought I'd got some clouds in there, which indeed I do. However, I thought they were more grey than they are. So what I've decided to do is actually pull out some grey papers here. One's got writing on it and one's like a grid paper, so they're sort of grey-white. And I'm going to draw around those cloud bits of ephemera, and then I'm actually going to tear those out rather than cut them out with a rough edge, so that the clouds are actually in the colours I want. And indeed I'm going to use some of the offcut of purpley lilac there from one of the layers from behind the photographs there. So you can see I'm just roughly tearing it around, using my thumb to help me get a little curve going. And I did draw onto the back of the papers majority of the time, although some of them I think I did go onto the front, and then I used the eraser on the end of the pencil there just to rub it out. So again, just doing it on this little bit of paper here. and actually I found that I did need to do it onto the front of the paper rather than the back when drawing, because the way you tear dictates where the rough edge is showing. So if I'd torn it from the other side, I wouldn't have had the white edge showing on the tear, which is the desired effect. A lot of my scrapbooking is actually around photographs of my children and their hobbies. So with my son, that was the bouldering, climbing, that kind of thing, and with my daughter it would be dancing. So you'll see lots and lots of layouts with photographs of those. Other things I tend to do a lot of are what we call holidays here in the UK, and what other countries call vacations. So these are trips to other countries, trips within this country to see other parts of the country, and as well as doing scrapbooking of those, I do also video those and put them up on my other channel, which is called Fruit Loop Films Travel With Me. So feel free to go on and have a look at those if you want to. Comment down below if there is something that you seem to scrap photographs of more than anything else. So is it a particular event? Is it something to do with your children, maybe hobbies like mine? Is it something from your past? Is it travel, or is it just day-to-day activities? So I was telling you earlier about the fact that the lady who organises our crop provides us with the waste bin for our rubbish on the little tub on the table, and that's where I got the idea from for mine. Something I really enjoy doing is actually going to the crop, and like some of the Facebook crop groups that I belong to as well, it's really nice to see different people's styles and interpretations of things. We all do it slightly differently, and it's got to the stage with one or two of the girls on the crop that I can recognise their layouts without even knowing that it was them that actually did it. So we do definitely have our own individual styles. Some crop with just one photograph and then a lot of embellishment or a lot of paperwork around it. Some like to fill the page with photographs with virtually no paperwork or embellishment around them. I find that I actually tend to do a mix of them, and to be fair, if I'm scrapbooking at home, I'll probably do more of the one or two photograph type layouts with a lot more work on them. But if I'm travelling to our local crop and having to take stuff with me, that then tends to be multiple photograph layouts with less embellishments and work around them, just because it's easier when you are taking your supplies somewhere, and you have to plan ahead in those circumstances too. So it tends to be slightly more controlled what I do when I'm away from home scrapbooking than when I'm actually at home. So having torn out all those clouds now, I'm just arranging them on the page so that they please my eye. Took a little bit of jiggling them around. The grid paper large cloud there that's in the centre, I'm actually going to write some journaling on. And you'll see that I make a couple of mistakes whilst doing that, but mistakes are actually embellishment opportunities, and I took that opportunity and used some embellishments to hide the mistakes as I was going along. So again, the clouds are not going back in exactly the place that I'd laid them out, and I'm gluing them down. You tend to forget, and you just then stick it when you think it should go. I wasn't quite sure about this layout and the set of instructions for it, whether I would like it or not, but actually at the end I actually do quite like it. So you can see here that I've decided I'm going to stick that cloud behind the mountains, so I was quite pleased I'd left them loose the top of the mountains for now. So just sorting through here, through my purple embellishments and seeing if I can find anything I like. In that little packet there was it's a banner kit for making lots of banners, and it had some little like jute string there, and I thought that would be quite good for the mountaineering side of this. However, I actually don't end up using it in the end because my son isn't using any rope in the photo, and I just didn't find the opportunity to put it in, but it does sit there on the paper for quite a length of time. So I'm opening my silver embellishments now, and you'll see that when I'm rummaging through this, trying to find some bits and pieces, that actually some stars fall out and go onto the page, and I actually quite liked where they fell, so I just left them there and they will be stuck down there. So again, that was kind of an embellishment opportunity, or embellishment by accident, because they just fell out of the box while I was rummaging through. I've recently resorted my embellishments into colours. Again, they have been in colours for quite a length of time, but they were in one big box per colour, and I was finding it quite difficult to sort through. So this is my purple flowers embellishment, and I just wanted to pull out a few flowers to use on here. I then wanted to choose an alther. I wanted quite a chunky alther, but I couldn't find one in the colour or the texture that I wanted. So I'm pulling out these, and what I'm going to do with them is cover them with gesso and then sort of paint to give a slightly aged look, so you can see some of the pattern from underneath coming through. I was toying with the idea of hold tight or hold on as the title. I do actually go with hold on in the end. The problem I had was that actually in the colours that I was wanting to look for and use, I couldn't find any letter O's, so I actually found the Q's and I trimmed them down to look like O's. So you can see here that I've actually now made the decision that it's going to be hold on rather than hold tight, and I'm just going to gather together the bits and pieces I need to put the colour on. So first of all, I thought maybe I could just paint on top of them using this silver acrylic pen. However, it didn't work particularly well, hence why I end up using the gesso on it, just to give it something to grip onto, and also helps with the aged, sort of slightly faded look that I was going for. So you can see I'm colouring it in, but you really can see the stuff from behind. Comment below if you have actually found some techniques for using up odd bits of althers and adapting them to suit your needs like I have done here, because you always seem to end up with odds and ends. So I think this is at the point when I'm thinking, this isn't going to work, I need to do something with these, and I decide gesso is definitely going to be the answer. Oh no, first of all I'm thinking maybe if I spray them perhaps that will work, but that didn't work particularly well because the shimmer mist there didn't want to spray, so I tried dotting it from inside the bottle using the tube that is part of the spray. Didn't like that, wiped it off, as you can see. Excuse the slightly croaky voice today, for I seem to have picked up something recently and my voice is not quite what it should be. So here I'm just using a little bit of white gesso and very thinly smoothing it around over the top of the letters. I use one of these silicone makeup application brushes for using my gesso and applying it. It doesn't clog like a brush and is really easily cleaned when you're finished using it. The mat there on top of the table, the sort of brown thinnish one there, is white cleanable, and I just wanted something to stop the mess getting onto the desk, even though the desk is quite old now. And I was fed up of making a mess on my cutting boards because I tried to wipe those down, and of course anything that's going to clean products off of something also is going to remove any printing that's on there, so I was actually removing the printed grid lines on the boards there. So still messing about with little bits there, but on top of the gesso. So using some of the spray mist, but just by dabbing it on, and also using that acrylic pen, as you can see here. I don't know about you all, but I've actually found that life has seemed to get in the way of doing any scrapbooking at the moment, so I haven't done a great deal in the last few weeks. It just seems to be that every non-working moment of the day is, or even of the week, is taken up with other things at the moment. So I changed my mind about the flowers that I wanted to use on this layout. Instead of using these sort of acrylic, quite chunky lilac-y purple flowers, these little paper ones with a little bit of a gemstone on just seemed to fit better with the silver stars and the layout and colour wise. And also the other ones were a little bit too feminine, seeing as this is a layout about my son. Let me know if you actually use flowers in layouts for male dominated photographs. So normally I would go with the 3 clusters of embellishment type rule or advice on scrapbooking, but here they're slightly more scattered across the page. Again, this is because the stars there just scatter themselves across the page, and I like the way they look, and they kind of lead your eye from the title up towards the photograph. So just using some wet glue now to stick everything down, whether it be the letters or the stars or the flowers. Some of the stars go and flowers go under the letters, and some will go on top of them, just to give a slightly more informal feel. And again, because I didn't want this too formal, I didn't use the set square or T rule to line up the letters. I just used the lines that were on the paper as a rough guide. I did toy with the idea of doing them slightly more higgledy-piggledy, but obviously I decided not to. So just a little bit more of sticking down to do using the wet glue, mainly to stick the peaks of these mountains down now that I've finished putting everything else down. And then it'll be time to do the journaling on that cloud there that is the grid paper. Talking of clouds, it's really quite cloudy here today and it keeps raining. The temperature has dropped considerably from how it was a week or so ago when we were having some beautiful sunny weather here in this country. It's now chilly enough for me to think I need a cardigan on. So here we go with the journaling using a very fine liner there. It's my preferred pen, and it's one that, unless I want something a different colour, that I will use when I'm doing all my journaling. So there, like I mentioned before, I've made a mistake, so what I'm going to do is stick a star over that mistake and then continue with the journaling. So because I've got one random star up there, I thought I'd better put some more just to connect them to the others, to make it flow from the top to the bottom of the page, or indeed in this case from the bottom to the top. So like I said before, sometimes the embellishing is an accident to cover up a mistake, or a mistake is indeed an embellishment opportunity. So now that this layout is finished, I would ask that you click on the like and subscribe buttons and on the little notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload some new videos. And the final thing is to thank you once again for joining me here in a very English craft room.